There is a fifth dimension.
A dimension of sound.
Damn it, Frank! We tell him to be quiet. I spilled my hot cup of Uranus again.
A dimension of sight.
Hey, Arch. I'm gonna sock you in the puss.
A dimension of mind.
Nan Adams, is that you?
Next stop, the Twilight Zone.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Fifth Dimension of Twilight Zone podcast. I am, as well, always, I can't say my name apparently every week, but I am, as always, Nick, your host. We're here to talk the Twilight Zone, Rod Serling's famous podcast, or famous Twilight. Rod Serling loves our podcast, so he calls it the most famous podcast in history. Yeah, speaking. I've had
Hey,
2 beers, so now I'm like drunk because I don't.
You know
drink
what?
very
There's
often.
no one to say that it's not his favorite podcast.
Hey guys,
This is true.
Welcome
This is
to
true.
the podcast.
Hey, even Ann Serling.
Welcome to Nick, my name podcast.
I said even Ann Serling liked our Twitter account. So
And Sterling,
Yeah.
what's up, girl? Mm.
How you doing?
so you never know. Rod Serling could be like, in the Twilight Zone, my favorite podcast. But no, we're here to talk Rod Serling's famous TV series that he created and eventually gave up on because he was tired of dealing with the CBS executives. As always, if you like these videos or you like the audio feeds, definitely subscribe and rate, stars, comment below, all that good stuff. You know what to do. If you watch any of these videos or podcasts, you know that's how we gain an audience. But with that said, I'm of course here with Triv and Jacob, normal co-hosts that come on. Jacob, of course. The problem is it's been like 2 weeks since we recorded, so Jacob, of course, is now one member of his family bigger. Now that he's had his
I've grown.
kid. Yeah. he's found that extra hole.
I have another one.
He now has 7 holes, that type of thing. So
Oh, good
It's
lord.
Tuesday, so I got another kid.
congratulations, Jacob, on the little
Thank you.
kid. I hope you say he's doing well, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
Trev has an ascot on right now, which you
Hey,
can't see because it's black and white, but it's really very
It's
orange and green.
chartreuse. It's chartreuse. It's chartreuse and orange because I just had this wild feeling that I needed to get this really specific scarf, and I don't know why.
I know. I wonder why.
I don't know.
I can't imagine why you would do that on an episode like this, Trev.
I know, and it matches
maybe-
my outfit so well.
I know, right? And it goes right along with your cup of Uranus. So, anyways,
Does it? Okay.
Sure. That said, we're talking about season 2, episode 27, which is called "The Mind and the Matter." But before we get into the episode, we have a returning guest. This guest, of course, is someone who honestly finally caught up with the Twilight Zone. We had to flog him several times and throw rocks at him and call him a Judas, stuff like that. But he finally did it. He's now part of our
What?
culture. That is the no. I'm throwing in some Monty Python references.
Oh, okay.
Was it what does he
You
say?
had too much to drink, sir. Edit.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not editing anything. No, okay. No, of course, Dan from TYTD. reviews is here.
TWTD.
TWTD.
I'm just gonna sit here and drink. You guys talk.
Your cup
No,
filled
anyways.
up. It wasn't that full a while ago.
Oh my god.
No, I added.
Those beaver cups, they're like beaver nuggets, man.
See, this is what happens when I drink the greatest beer ever known to man. So if you want to sponsor us, Anheuser. Anyways, Dan, how you doing? Was
I'm
right?
doing-
This ship once went wrong.
Hello,
Just
TWTD.
start speaking, Dan, quickly. Let your British accent wash over.
See,
them.
Dan, I need to come over to England so I can like learn how to drink better. That's what I need to do.
It's okay. We have many fine ale refineries over here that would surely allow you to imbibe. Hello, I'm back. It's nice to be back. I would have been back a few
Yeah.
weeks ago, but Triv sent me into a Buc-ee's to go and get some jerky, and it took me 3 years to get out. So
You're
Found a
looking
guy.
good. I'm not seeing any facial hair. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. I bumped into Jareth in there, and after doing magic dance for a bit, he let me go. So it was fantastic. But no, you guys really gave me some drive to get on this stuff. So over Christmas, basically, I was just freebasing Twilight Zone episodes it was just stupid. I was doing like 6 episodes a day, and I got caught up pretty quickly with you guys. It's a hell of a show, isn't it?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, like, now that you're kind of up to where we're at. I mean, you haven't gotten into like have you gone past what this episode? You watched what's the episode that you thought we were gonna do?
So I thought you were up to Obsolete Man. I've watched
the
end of season 2.
Okay.
So I'm going to be starting season 3 when you guys finish season 2, just so that I can get ahead of the train a little bit. And
oh, sweet. So what's your thoughts on the Twilight Zone as a whole so far? Like how do you view it as like a TV series coming into it fresh? Because I know, like, this is a series that is well known, but as you said when you first came on the first time, you've never really watched this series. So like, how does it hold up for you? How does it play out?
So yeah, like you say, I'd never seen an episode really before you guys introduced me to the show on it, and having now watched through a more than decent chunk of it, it's amazing really just how fresh it still really is and how relevant some of those stories really can be. What's astounded me the most is the sort of the flaw of these episodes. Like, there's no, like, with most series that you watch, there's like really, really good episodes and then absolute stinkers that you'll never watch again. And what's astounded me with the show is that everything is like good at minimum. It's like the worst episodes I will still quite happily just put on and watch. I'm not, there's no episode where I've gone, this was shocking, I'm not watching this one again. Every single one, if it was on telly, I'd be like, yeah, okay, sure, I'll sit for half an hour and watch this one up. And that ranges from that right the way through to like genuinely astoundingly well made. So
right. And I've talked to you before we've recorded, and some of your favorite episodes ironically are some of the lower listed episodes that we have on our ranking list. So I sent you the list earlier. Like, what do you, now that you've seen these episodes up to this point, how would you, like, where would you put some of these episodes in your ranking list? Like, because I know we're completely different than, like, for you, who likes the more sillier, crazier episodes. And like for us, number one is, of course, was it the Eye of the Beholder? But what about you? How would you?
So when I went through your list, my immediate thought was, hey, if you tip this list upside down, it would more or less be my list. So, I mean, I've discovered I'm very much into the more whimsical sort of side of the Twilight Zone. So episodes like Mr. Beavis, Mr. Dingle the Strong, stuff like the 16mm Shrine was in my list. The Big Tall Wish is another one that was up there for me. And it's kind of, I like that mesh of whimsical but also pathos heavy. So for example, one of the ones that's stuck with me since I've watched it was The Big Tall Wish, just purely because it's kind of a whimsical idea, but it's done in a very dark, grim kind of sort of scenario. That that's the one episode out of all of them that's really stuck with me, like, past the fact. Whereas the more kind of sci-fi heavy episodes are the ones that I tend to kind of they sort of sit further down the list for me. I think it's more just because I'm more interested in seeing how abstract Serling as a writer could be, or people like Matheson, where they could take a standard situation and just run with it. It's a fascinating show. I mean, my favorite episode, I mean, I was doing a ranking list and then Letterboxd deleted it, which was really upsetting because I've got them all there. But I think the top episode that I'd got was Mr. Dingle the Strong, and then that was followed by What You Need as a close second. And I think that kind of sums up where I am with the show, is that I quite like those light-hearted episodes, but I like it when they contrast that light-heartedness with a real darkness to kind of offset. I'm also bitterly disappointed that they abandoned the season 1 end credits music after season 1, because like that's the greatest piece of music I've ever heard. It's just this really sort of grand thing, and don't get me wrong, the Twilight Zone theme itself is really solid, but that end credits music for season 1 was just phenomenal. So yeah, that's where I am at, really. I'm just enjoying it for what it is. Every episode it was just like, brilliant, what's the next one?
Yeah, and season 3 has some what I would consider all-time classic episodes. So you're gonna find, like, I think even though there's only 5 episodes, season 3 is where it peaks. I'm gonna be really interested to see where you land on season 4, because there's some 60-minute episodes in there. So especially Chespel, Trip's favorite episode.
You see, this is the thing, but just on a sort of film critic level, length is a deal breaker for me. So,
Yeah.
That's what she said.
But yeah, like if something runs longer than it should, my brain just immediately starts crashing down the scores. So
oh yeah, wait till we get to the 60-minute. Oh my god, it gets a little rough.
There are some that definitely earn that 60-minute time,
Are
but
they
by and large,
60 minutes with commercials? So are they actually 40-minute episodes, or are they?
No, well, yeah, they're
60
with commercials, but they're still like 55 minutes apiece.
Damn.
That shows you how many commercials have like peaked since TV back in the 50s. Like now it's like 20 minutes of commercials and 30 minutes of actual episodes.
But do any of them do like Twilight Zone and afterwards have a special note from Rod Serling or their sponsor? Like
actually, Dan, do you have those special ending portions where they introduce the next episode?
Like Ed McMahon.
Yeah. So my
this one was
father-in-law
great
for Christmas,
this week.
This was the one. My father-in-law over Christmas actually gifted me the set on Blu-ray. So I've been working through not only the full episodes, but I get the next time trailers and all of the commercial sponsors for Oasis cigarettes. Let me tell you, their asbestos filters are next level.
Yeah, I like the introduction for the one of Triv's favorite episodes next week, which is like this is for the sci-fi buffs, or this is for the sci-fi crowd and jigsaw buffs or something like that, jigsaw puzzle buffs. Like that was great. Yeah, I love
and they
that.
also have the softest taste.
When I was a smoker,
mild.
If I had known about Oasis, I probably would still be a smoker
because they have the softest taste.
What does that even mean, though? What does softest taste even mean? Like, I know they were all about like wordplay, like extreme wordplay back in the day, but holy crap, what does that even mean?
In all honesty, it's probably a light cigarette that just doesn't hit. Don't get the.
Does it make you cough every time you smoke it?
Super hard. Yeah.
But so after I finished season 2 over Christmas, both me and Triv jumped onto a film that he made just after the Twilight Zone called Carol for Another Christmas, which is currently my favorite thing he's ever done. I sat there awesome. Just jaw like open, just like this is ridiculously good. So recommend that, and that inspired me. I've picked the Night Gallery up as well. I don't know if that's any good, but I grabbed that just purely off the back of what I'd seen of season 1 and that film. I was like, shit, I got to get in on this because what have I been missing?
All right, let's get into this episode. So today we're talking about, once again, season 2, episode 27, The Mind in the Matter, 2 episodes from the end of the second season. This is directed by Kulik, written by Rod Serling. Production code 1733659, air date May 12th, 1961. I love the rat race music that they use in this movie or this episode, by the way. It's just like every time they need a subway scene or a car scene, there's that rat race music. But this episode it's about, in essence, the nature of the working world and how we become so despondent and angry by it. Like, I know this very well. I know Jacob knows this very well. Triv, you know this very well. Dan, I hope you know this very well. Just the nature of working in the system of just not feeling anything anymore, wanting everybody just to go away. This is the Randall of the Twilight Zone episodes, if that makes any sense. It'd be nice if all the fucking customers weren't here, that type of thing. And yeah, it's not a very complex episode. It really isn't. It's, as Dan says, and I know you enjoy this episode, as you said, it's just an episode about a man who just doesn't want to deal with people and doesn't want to deal with things anymore. He just wants to be alone and just left alone. And it's like the time stopwatch thing. It's like, be careful what you ask and what you wish for. And going into this episode, I know Jacob, I didn't really know much about this episode either. I don't know, Triv, if you knew. When you hear a title like The Mind in the Matter, do you think of a guy who's just despondent with life? Because it didn't, like, that's not what it felt like a magic
Lazy
episode
Thanos.
or something. I don't know. Crazy Thanos. But like, what do you guys think going into the episode?
Well, and that's the thing with Twilight, naming anything is not always easy. Like, how do you encompass? Sometimes it's like right there, and sometimes it's not. And that's the one thing with a lot of Twilight Zone episodes, at least from my perspective. Like, the names don't always reflect well what's going on. Like, I know this episode quite well, like, relatively speaking, but I couldn't have, by the name, I wouldn't have been able to tell you what this was.
Right.
I like those kind of the names that are like that are interesting and get you thinking, what's this like? What did we watch a few episodes back? The Silence. I mean, it's a little on the nose. Or like that new movie that just came out. plane.
Or ship.
Yeah. Yeah. I like when they're creative and they name it something and you're like, I wonder what that means. And you don't really know until the end of the episode and you're like, oh, okay, I get it now.
But it also doesn't
Sid-
necessarily draw you in per se. Like if I
Oh,
would have
sure,
seen
that's
that, it
harder.
wouldn't. Yeah, it wouldn't have necessarily said, "Oh, of all the episodes, like something like the Martians are due on, or or will the real Martian please stand up?" That draws me in because it's like, oh, that sounds really interesting. Like in the grand scheme, that's going to draw me over something called The Mind and the Matter.
Yeah, they probably should have named it, Man Hates Everyone.
Well, no, not
That's
that's
not
not that on the nose, but you know what I mean.
Thanos.
Right. It doesn't strike me
Bad-
as something where, oh, I have
bad
to check
mask.
that one out. Oh, shush. Dork.
Dan,
This
were
is
you gonna
the
say
problem
something?
that I've got.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just gonna say this is the problem that I have really with. I'm not sure whether it's just the way my brain works or whether it's because I've freebased so many episodes so quickly. But like my general experience with
Really
these
freebased.
episodes now is like, if somebody tells me the title, I go what, and then they go, oh, it's that one where this happens. I go, ah, yeah, I remember that now.
That's every week when we're talking about
Yeah.
when we're going through the ranking, and I'm like, which one is that? And they're like, it's the one with the guy who does the thing. I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, all we had to say to Jacob, all we had to do to say to Jacob is it's an episode that is below Perchance to Dream. He's like, oh yeah.
You know what
I
the
know
names
that.
of these should be like? It's like the Friends episodes where it's their names are the one
Oh, the
with
one. Yeah.
this and the
Yeah.
one that. The one with whatever. Anyway,
The one with boring Thanos.
the one with very domesticated Thanos.
Right.
That's good.
The one with a my very happy face in the mirror, Thanos. So with
Put the
that
show together,
said,
you're gonna have to do like a picture of this guy with like the chin and just
Shit.
snapping.
Right. With that said, to open up the episode, we're introduced to a man on a very I swear to God, I thought this took place in Japan because they're known for like having very compact like subways and places and stuff like that. But apparently this takes place in like a New York type area. But we're introduced with Rod Serling dialogue, and he just doing his thing. And Jacob, have at it.
A brief, if frenetic, introduction to Mr. Archibald Beechcraft, a child of the 20th century, a product of the population explosion, and one of the inheritors of the legacy of progress. Mr. Beechcraft, again, this time, Act 2 of his daily battle for survival. And in just a moment, our hero will begin his personal one-man rebellion against the mechanics of his age. And to do so, he will enlist certain aids available only in the Twilight Zone.
So he watched Ant-Man. Now he's pissed.
He's mad about MODOK.
He's mad about the
Jonathan
quantum
Majors
zone.
wasn't enough.
Hey, you know what really pisses me off about this episode?
What's that?
I'll tell you later.
Dan's over there
I
like,
hope
what the fuck are they talking
And
about?
it's like, what are you talking about?
But yeah, so that actually opening narration does a pretty nice job of just explaining a guy who is just tired of the bullshit. That's what it comes down to. And we basically follow Archibald Beechcraft, as Jacob said, is the greatest name ever since Percival Smithers. And
I was disappointed he wasn't wearing an ascot, though.
Yeah. Basically, this man works at a place. It felt very similar
Insurance
to
company.
it was an insurance company, but it felt very
I think
similar
so.
to like Joe versus Volcano, where he's in this world that's very like, even though this is a black and white show, you can tell it's a very sterile, very grayish place that has his boss, I think it's his boss, Mr. Rogers, is very like, you need to drink your milk, you need to take your vitamins, you need to have plenty of vegetables, and you need to go on a diet. And I'd be like, fuck you, and probably punched him for that. But that's what it feels. That's what it feels like. It feels like Beechcraft is just, he's in a world that is very just kind of boring. And as we know
he
from
said something. What did his boss? He said something that I was like, yeah, that needs. Unfortunately, I didn't take notes this time, but he had a little
That's tilt?
saying. Yeah, that.
Yeah.
What was? How did he put it?
So with old pinball machines, if you
Well, yeah,
rock them too much, they tilt.
yeah.
But
so
the
I
way
think
he
they still
said
do
it though,
that.
he phrased it. I like the way he phrased it. Wait, whatever.
That's tilt. Yeah, I know. Let me look it up
tilt
here
his
quick.
tits. I don't think he said that, but whatever.
And at some point during the episode, he says, I'd be happy if it weren't for the fucking customers.
That was absolutely sad.
Yeah.
Then Soul Asylum slowly fades in.
And that's the other funny part. He's like, Kevin McAllister in Home Alone. He's just like, wish my family would just disappear. And
You know what he kind of reminded me
Made my
of?
family disappear.
He's like Squidward.
yes, he is.
Very much so.
SpongeBob.
So, there's that nice level where he's just got that kind of miserable overtone, but they're just bubbling under the surface. You can tell there's a bit of whimsy going on. There's just this very nice kind of playfulness just below the surface, which I quite enjoyed.
Does that make Henry, who's the other character we meet, who's the more I think he was really he's SpongeBob. So that
Basically.
who would be Patrick? Patrick is just his reflection, I guess. I don't know.
Patrick
Yeah,
is his boss.
Yeah. I'm Archibald. No, I'm Beechcroft.
Okay, tilt is to annoy or frustrate.
There you
Oh,
go.
that's SpongeBob.
Yeah.
It's Squidward.
But so we're introduced to Henry, who of course knocks water or soda on him, which of course pisses. Was it coffee? I thought it was like soda or something like that. But this pisses off, of course, Beechcroft, kind of infuriates him, and Henry feels real bad about it. He really does. He walks away, and that's like I said, we get all the discussion with Mr. Rogers and stuff like that. But I mean, before we get into the whole crux of this episode with the book and stuff like that, how did this episode feel? I'll go to you, Dan. How did this episode feel to you as a way to start the episode and the idea of who this character is? Did you get enough before the actual crux of what this episode was doing or what it was going to do?
Yeah, pretty much. So one of the things the two big things that I noticed really watching this through is I take it that John Hughes was quite a big fan of this episode because in several John Hughes films, there's very, very annoying sequences that'll play, like, when Neil Page is on the airplane in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, or when the Griswold family are on the train in European Vacation. And the sort of direction and cinematography of those sequences are frighteningly similar to the bits where Archibald is in the train compartment and everybody's kind of like rustling newspapers at him and sort of generally being very close. There's very similar kind of cine that sort of mirrors across those.
So you have an overworked individual in Planes, Trains with Steve Martin, who's just kind of he's day by day by the book, just doesn't really care anything much more than his family type of thing.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. And this is the thing. There's very much a lot of similar tones and styles that carry across into Hughes's work on that front. But the other thing that really struck me about this episode was how much attention to detail was played to the sound mix, which is often very neglected in TV shows of that time. It's usually basically just sort of whatever they could be asked to actually bother recording sound for on old television back in the day. But this really has care and attention to it. Everything is very high mixed. So those newspapers, they don't just sort of rustle a little bit. They are full blown, like the loudest newspapers you've ever heard in your life.
Yes.
Like people just making idle chatter or just like blaring. And I think that's a really good choice to do with a story like this, because when you've got like a one-man episode effectively where it's just one person going through, and the main point is that he's annoyed at how modern life is just noise and busyness, playing up that sound and really driving it to the audience. It's just a really nice subtle touch that just offsets things quite nicely.
I enjoyed this episode a lot. Like just the first bit as it's coming in, like if you look at a lot of the movies of this era, they do talk a lot about, like, whether you're talking The Apartment, movies in that vein, they do talk a lot about how, like, or producers, like there's that generic just office space that everybody works in and everything is the same, everybody dresses the same, the whole 9 yards, and like that sameness every single day when the rud is up past your eyeballs. Like you get that sense so much in this.
I don't remember this episode. I kind of like in watching it. I remember watching this episode. I don't remember anything about it, where it was going to go. I got like for like a second or two a hint of what's the one with the glasses? Time Enough at Last.
Yeah,
I guess because he was all alone. I got a little bit hint of that. For whatever reason, the part on the subway train, I agree with Dan. I immediately, because you just hear the paper all over him, like all around him, and I was like, man, that's annoying. Oh, I see what they did there.
Yeah.
But like the visual of it reminded me of that scene from Citizen Kane for some reason, where he's like in the mob of people. I don't know. They probably weren't going for that. That's just where my head was, I guess. I don't like Citizen Kane, but whatever. Anyway, I
Same
thought it
difference.
was.
I mean, it still affected you.
Yeah, it was a entertaining episode. I mean, as we talk about it, I may change my opinion, but I don't think it was like the best episode ever. But I had a good time with it. I think we've seen it's a morality tale, I guess,
Yeah.
kind of, sort of. We've seen this tale, this lesson before on the Twilight Zone. Nothing wrong with that, but we've seen the whole, get what you wish for, and maybe it's not really what you wanted, and a lot of the time that is to just leave me the fuck alone. I want to be alone, and I can really relate to that. I moved out to the middle of fucking nowhere to get away from people, so
I say that, then I moved to Orlando, so I can't really talk about it.
Well, you moved like from one
Miami,
major
and-
city to another major city. So
I
I mean,
know,
it
and
is
I
in
hate all
theory
people.
it's a different way of looking at it. But I mean,
Yeah.
it is a different crowd.
Dude, I got
Yeah,
chickens
yeah.
and goats now. I'm like,
Well, the one
out there. I can walk outside naked if I wanted to.
I'm assuming you've done that many times.
I'm just gonna leave now because I don't need to see one.
the one thing that jumped out at me with this as well, and it's sort of clear at the beginning, but it becomes more clear as it goes on, is I'm fairly convinced at this point that this has got to be some kind of case study for Serling himself. This is very much the way that the conversational nature between Archibald and Archibald's reflection very much, it seems in line with Serling's own real world understandings. Like, for me, he strikes me as somebody who really enjoyed people on his terms. So like, if he could go out and just hear conversations from people, he'd love it. But like, by and large, he seemed like the kind of guy who was happiest just in front of his typewriter somewhere, just being left the fuck alone. So
yeah, and you can see, I would say, you can see in a lot of episodes, there's a very much a hostile nature to the characters and the people that they're up against, and that was very much an indictment of like the world that he sees and views, as well as like the CBS executives, because they were very hostile. He was very hostile towards them, and they were very hostile towards him because they kept fucking with him. And you can just see that in his writing. You can see that in every nature facet of like, this character, how despondent he is. And I'm sure Rod Serling was starting to get very despondent as the series moved along, with just the view of like, we need I hate to say it, there was no reason to do hour-long episodes, and that was because of CBS. They're like, no, we need hour-long episodes because this series is a behemoth right now, and it's doing very, very
Get
well.
more advertising.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like, fuck you. And they're like, no, fuck you. We own you. And he's like, and that he just wrote some like really terrible
Okay.
episodes. Yeah. He's like, okay.
But yeah,
Oh,
I mean, once I clicked in that this was possibly just Serling writing about talking to the other side of Serling, this episode very quickly got a lot more entertaining as well.
He's seeing himself in the mirror and a graph that goes upwards. He's like, his anger just going upwards as he's talking to himself and stuff. So
I can relate to that though, because like, I think you're onto something, that it is him like enjoying to be around people on his terms, and I can relate. I mean, that's me. I like being away from people and happy like being alone, but sometimes I do want to be around people, but yeah, it's just selfishly on my own terms, admittedly. So like, I don't like want to go out into the world unless I want to, unfortunately.
But isn't that where everybody kind of starts? Like, I think there are a lot of people that are genuinely extroverted, but even with that being an extrovert, I think you do have that. Ideally speaking, you want it to be on your terms. Like, I want people that I want to be around. Like, you go to the store and like that one person that annoys the ever-loving shit out of you is there. You're not going to want to be out on those terms. So I think that's kind of true of everybody, to at least some extent.
Although I suppose with
a little
somebody
more
in Serling's
comfortable.
position, it's very much because obviously at this point, I wouldn't say he was necessarily a celebrity, but he was certainly a lot very, very well known. I imagine that he was feeling more of the having to live his life on other people's terms than most of us. Like, most of us, if we don't want to do something, we'd just be like, sod it, and we'd leave. But I imagine he had a lot of contractual obligations that kind of kept him in place.
yeah, he with him being in the war, and you read some of the quotes that his daughter posts on Twitter, he was a very very complex individual in his thoughts and thinkings. He was once again very ahead of the curve when it came to the ideas being presented on TV. I mean, you think of like the shit that was being put out at this time, and there's nothing like it. There really is. I mean, there's Star Trek, which definitely dealt with themes and stuff like that, but didn't that come like a little bit later than this show?
66.
66. You can just tell that this show really kind of helped jumpstart and jump offing point for a lot of shows dealing with social issues and social commentary. And it's the same thing here. Like, even though this is a very compared to Shadow Play, which was last week's episode, this was a much more lighthearted episode with some dark undertones and stuff like that. But you can definitely tell the social commentaries of just the overarching, as you said, Dan, just like how Rod Serling feels just day by day culture and stuff like that. So it's an interesting episode that deals with a book and a cultist book called The Mind and the Matter, which is a book actually would have been cool to learn a little bit more about, but the focus on this story and the story alone, we only have to learn about chapter 3, which Henry, feeling so bad, tells him about this bookstore, and then he gives this book to Beechcroft, who tells him at first, he's like, it's fine, you whatever, you spilled something on me, who gives a shit? And he gives him the book. He just said, read chapter 3, and it's all about. I put down conversation and thinking, but it has to do with like, focusing on what you want, like how to change things and stuff like that, which I think is what I was going for. Am I reading that right?
Well, it's kind of like actually like there's that book called The Secret, where it's like you put positive stuff out and like you put you manifest what you want, and then that's supposed to come back to you, which is sort of bullshit on some levels. Like, it's important, but it's not like the only thing. But basically, it's that. It's right, exactly. Like, you say, okay, I want to be a millionaire, and you believe that hard enough, and the universe will give it back to you. Is essentially what that's what I got from it. But
yeah, I read a completely different book called It, where kids have sex in that book, and that was just very, very weird.
Oh, Jesus. Hey,
everybody's down for the sewer gangbang.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna make a serious point, but I don't think I'm going to now.
Please make it. I was joking. That was very
underage gangbang. I'm not sure I feel comfortable.
In a
underage sewer gangbang.
In a sewer.
God.
See, Trev, I'll make the argument that I blame Budweiser for that comment. So
oh Jesus, yeah, blame Budweiser. That's always a good thing. Well, one other real quick thing with Serling. So his production company was Cayuga Productions. They had a cabin on Lake Cayuga in New York, and that's where they would go to vacation. Like, Anne Serling talked a lot about that. So that was kind of his retreat from the world. So I think you're right. I think he was a very not isolating person, but someone that needed their time.
Sounds like he was a bit of an introvert, but due to his profession and where his life led him, he was kind of forced at times to be an extrovert.
Yeah,
kind of a forced extrovert, which I think any introvert has been put in that situation before, and that makes you a bit uncomfortable.
But isn't that most writers are introverted in a lot of respects because they like? I'm thinking. I mean, not a lot of people are like Stephen King who can go out and just fucking talk to anyone, and just be fine. But a lot of people like. You look at a lot of famous authors, and a lot of them don't want to be in the spotlight. They want to write their stories, and that's where they get the creative outlets and stuff like that. And certainly would go talk to people like universities and stuff like that. And there's many YouTube videos of him talking to people. But maybe his views like going through the war and stuff like that. He's like, I just don't want to deal with the society and how just like they just don't understand what's the real issue here.
Well, he and Beechcraft both kind of share. What I would think, and I guess I'm like this to a degree, is I don't want to go talk to a crowd full of people. I can, and sometimes I've had to. I don't want to do that, but I'd love to just go talk to that person.
Yeah,
that one person. Yeah, let's go let's just go and talk. And like 2 people talking, great. 30 people talking, oh my God, I'm out.
Jake, that other person isn't you in a wig and heels, is it?
I mean, not the wig.
Is it you and the goats? You go outside, talk to the goats. You like talk to the goats and chickens.
Is in a wig and heels. It just
it's just Jacob in heels and nothing else.
Well, I mean, if you're out in the middle of nowhere, who cares?
Well, this is the thing though as well. having seen a lot of
that troll outfit there, Jake.
Having seen a lot of Serling's writing now, it's become very clear that he kind of used the Twilight Zone as a bit of an output for dealing with his own internalized issues and problems, and he used it more as a way to vocalize how his internal problems were. you know, like I say, we've skipped ahead a little bit with A Carol for Another Christmas, but like it's painfully clear in that short film that he has very strong anti-nuclear sentiments, and maybe he didn't feel confident delivering that himself, but through that script he makes it very vocal exactly where he stands on the issue. And again, you know, this here is probably another attempt at him trying to rationalize that internalized issue that he has with people. And I think that he comes to the conclusion, spoilers if we jump ahead a little bit, but I think he comes to the conclusion ultimately that having some people around sometimes isn't necessarily a terrible thing. It's a necessary evil. But yeah, you know, I think that he is a fascinating writer just in terms of how he deals with his own issues and puts them into work. Like, I know that a lot of writers do that, but he does it in a very unique way that I don't think a lot of writers really get as raw as he does at some points. So it's a real shame he didn't live long enough to see the age of audio commentaries, because
That would have been amazing.
Oh, can you imagine him just like chatting over every single episode? I'd be watching them all twice. That'd
Right.
be...
I wonder if he would do commentaries though, or he'd be like Steven Spielberg. He's like, fuck that shit.
I guarantee he would. If he did, I bet he would do the ones where it was like him and one other person, or him and like maybe two people he knew. I could absolutely see him doing those. Just him by himself. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just imagining him doing it in the style of David Lynch when he did the Eraserhead commentary, and basically he just sat there for 2 hours calling people on the phone and holding the phone up to the microphone to ask them questions because he couldn't be bothered to just sit there by himself. But yeah,
he should do it in the style of Michael Bay, when Michael Bay just went on a tirade about Ben Affleck. That would have been amazing. About how Ben Affleck fucking sucked.
Now this
Just
next
every
scene,
episode
we're gonna
is-
blow shit up. And
Yeah.
Ben Affleck sucks.
Romeo and Juliet laws, bitches.
You see the camera work here. We spin around them a lot and then blow them up.
Okay, so Beechcraft reads the book on the train, and then he finally finishes at his house, and he's like, he finally decides he's going to test this out, see if it works. That's when the convenient landlady with just the hand pops up and starts knocking on his door. Where's my rent? He's like, rent.
Where's
You
my
know,
rent,
from Spider-Man.
bitch?
Mr. Beechcraft, Mr. Beechcraft, rent. It's time for rent. Mr. Beechcraft, Mr. Beechcraft. I was like, Jesus Christ, just shoot her.
Yeah,
I mean, he kind of did.
The landlady is actually the landlord from Spider-Man.
Yeah.
The Russian
Let's even
guy.
get cake out of the
Ukrainian
deal.
guy. But he tries it out, and the landlady disappears. You know, like very typical 60s mindset with women. You know,
Crossfade.
as long as you get rid of the woman, make her disappear, it works.
You know what? I
guess.
would have gotten rid of that bitch too.
Life is a lot easier when you get rid of them women.
Hey, let's talk
Stephanie,
about
we've just been
You're great.
let's talk about the
Good night,
men
everybody.
that it would be better
we've
to
just
get
been
rid
canceled.
Forget
Present
about that. I'm
company
going to drive
excluded.
around and beat all of your asses.
You're
There
gonna
you go.
drive to me?
Yes,
Hey,
I will
hey,
fly
hey,
and then drive.
She's got
No,
that
no.
car from the 50s that goes in the
yeah.
water.
Actually, at Disney Springs, they have
Amphibian.
those amphibian cars, and you can drive on the water around Disney Springs, which is the shopping complex.
No, I'm going to fly and then drive and then beat his ass.
She's
I
gonna
just got the
drive
mental
Oh,
it.
you're gonna be
image of
like
you at the
Jane Silent
bottom.
Bob.
Yes.
I just got the
Yeah.
image of you at the bottom of the Atlantic, just sort of like carp swimming past the window, just looking really grumpy, just like constantly for the next 6 hours.
She's gonna be like the Muppets in the Muppet movie. There's gonna
Yeah.
be just drive underwater as they're playing music and shit.
Well, you know, I really
Um,
don't have to actually breathe because I'm a 2D avatar, so it works.
Yeah,
Mm.
you can just kind of float on the water.
Plus, I
You
got
have
my
like
swanky
a
new
whale.
scarf too. So
Yeah, use that as a
Jump
sail.
up in the
You
air and
float and
kinda
you have a sail.
blow over
Yeah.
there.
exactly. Forget that. I can
Um,
just travel electronically. I can be there in like 2.5 seconds.
She's like,
Yeah,
"Shut
you have a fax machine behind you. You can just stick yourself in the fax machine.
Yeah.
up. Come and get
I
your
come
bitch."
out looking terrible. No,
Accept
not the
the
shredder.
facts.
Not the
Accept it.
shredder. Ah!
With that said, I gotta kind of wonder, because this is a Twilight Zone, he's now able to basically make people disappear. Do you think like he's crazy? Like this is all in his head, or do you think he's actually making people disappear? Like, what do you guys think? That was the thing I was thinking about as it was moving along. I know it's Twilight Zone, and he probably made people disappear. What do you guys think?
So when he turns up to the office and there's no one there, are you assuming that he's just like rocked up out of hours or something? And
Yeah, he's actually one of the 5 people in search of an exit. He's just in a box of emotion.
Trash can.
Yeah, trash can.
Uranus.
Yeah,
It's in my anus.
Purple monkey
Yes.
dishwasher.
yeah, monkey dishwasher.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd like to go down the whimsical route and think that he actually has magical powers.
Yeah.
You know, as much as the breadbasket is probably the more realistic situation for our poor Archibald, I would actually prefer it if he was just a little bit magical. Although that having that ability does create the biggest fundamental problem I have with this episode, which is he's very all or nothing, which I suppose suits the character quite nicely. Like his problem is there's too many people, so he gets rid of them all.
Yeah, look at
And
that
then he brings
lunchroom.
and then he brings the exact same number back at the end. I'm just like, just bring back less people, job done. You know, have like
Yeah.
10 less people in the office, sorted.
Clearly, he didn't watch Infinity War.
Hmm.
You're only supposed to bring half the people back.
Yeah.
You never go full Thanos.
True.
Yeah, exactly.
Never go full Thanos.
Well, if you went full Thanos, half the world or half the population would be gone. If you went half Thanos, you'd only have a quarter of the population gone.
So if you went double Thanos, the whole pirate world
Double
disappears.
Thanos.
Basically, yeah. You have to snap twice.
Yeah, snap it choice.
I signed up to a podcast. I didn't sign up to no maths lesson here.
No, he's doing West
But
Side
then
Story.
you might forget how many did you do, and later when you come back, you're like, okay, was it 2 or was it 3? I don't. Okay, is that
No, he's
all
thinking-
of them? One more? Oh fuck! What is all that? Who are they?
Yeah, he's thinking, wait, did I get my clothes dry cleaned? Are they still being dry cleaned? Do I bring that
And
person back?
Do you snap them away? And
yeah.
Snapping away would it auto? Oops, shit! I snapped more. Which one is this? They stay. This is gone. Right or left? What is going on here? I
he
can
could have
never
even
get the
just-
right mix.
I mean, couldn't he have
Oh,
just
man.
like made them quieter? That would have probably solved like 90% of his problems. Just keep everybody there, but just like turn their volume down like 20%.
Yeah. Or just ask them to be, or just make them be less annoying.
Tell
Agent Smith
everybody
them and,
to
like, yeah.
shut up. Shut up.
Just give them all lobotomies, so that way they're all
Yeah.
pleasant.
Or
He's been
you could turn them all into
lobotomized.
you, and it'll be Malkovich.
Oh man,
And
yeah,
some
we're
in
gonna
really
get to that.
ill-fitting masks.
Yeah, we'll get to that here in a second. I just want to get through this real quick. So, anyways, he's made everybody disappears. Then he starts seeing himself, his conscience talking to him. I would have liked it more if he like was talking to himself and like somebody walked in the room and was like, he slowly backs away like Homer in the bushes or something. But
like a little devil on his shoulder and a little angel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
except they're
I-
both angels.
I do wonder though. So he disappears everybody. He goes into work.
Yeah.
He does his normal routine. He's so ingrained in his rut that he can't get out of his own routine. Like he just was like, okay, I'm just gonna, go to work, do my job. It's like there's nobody else that okay.
There's another question. Who the fuck's driving the train?
Yeah, the one guy driving the train's like, what the fuck?
Or did he? Maybe he did it with his mind because he opened doors with his mind and stuff, which that just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's the question I have. That's actually a good point. What is this book like the Necronomicon? Is this like
Basically.
is it lined
Taught
up
him
with
to be
like
a fucking Jedi.
yeah, like what the like this guy just has everything. All you do is read a book. Is this what Rod Serling's trying to tell you? Read a fucking book.
Yeah.
I hope you're happy. You've just set an expectation for Evil Dead Rise that will never be matched. I want to see Archibald fighting through a tower block of Deadites, and that's just very apathetic. Like, oh no, not this again.
Wait, that's why I say it's a cult book because it basically is a spell book. It's like he reads the spell of words. He reads
he really gets
chapter.
good at it fast though. Like
Yeah.
like
He
5
reads it
minutes
at
and he's
dinner.
got it. Yeah.
Propped up
Yeah, I
against
wish I
his
got
ketchup
good that
bottle.
quickly.
He also had one of the best sort of line deliveries I've seen for somebody who's just discovered they have the power over life and death, which is just to very sort of apathetically go, today the landlady, tomorrow the world. Not even like dramatic, just like really one note.
Yeah,
He might become
It's-
a fucking supervillain.
right.
A very
Except-
apathetic supervillain.
Yeah, it's
know.
like, maybe you'll be evil. Who cares?
It comes back to
He's
like
Grumpy
their
Cat.
Mm.
Grumpy Cat. He's the two ladies and the cat. The yelling at him. He's like he has a small smile on his face. But anyways, Yeah, so basically he disappears everyone, and then his conscience starts to realize that, you know, maybe having people is not that bad, but he makes his decisions in this episode are some of the greatest decisions ever, because instead of like doing small things like, you know, whatever, he's like, you know what, we need an earthquake and a lightning storm. I'm like, earthquake? You want an
Yeah, who thinks
earthquake?
that?
Yeah. I'm like,
Why
this
did he
guy
go
is,
to earthquake? Why not?
yeah, and then an
Fucking,
electrical storm.
I need a table dance.
I mean, I don't. This question is because when he goes down to the subway, he just puts a mustache on the woman perfume display. It's like,
He's like,
what does this guy want?
just it's like a little kid.
Yeah,
Well, and you think too,
but
like he's so apathetic towards everything. It takes like those really big things to get him off, and I don't mean in a like a sexual way, but like the lightning storm and the earthquake. It's like I'm bored. Lightning
God.
storm,
He's
earthquake.
like Squidward.
Yeah, exactly.
See, if this was made today, that would have been an extended sequence where he was basically just fine tweaking the earthquake and lightning storm to get it just where he was kind of in the mild peril territory. It wouldn't just be a minute and a half long bit where it's like, oh, earthquake, bit much. Lightning storm, oh, a bit scary. He'd be like, let's turn it down a bit. Can we bring the lightning up a little bit? Perfect. And then just sort of sit there. You know, very charismatic, very showy TV thing. So I am kind of glad that whilst they include this scene, which I think is very funny, that they keep it brief, because you just know that if it was made in a modern setting, the writers would have spent like 10 minutes just really milking that bit for as much like funnies as they could pull.
clearly, what he needs to do is cause a collapse of the world, and just have, create a guy who can fly around the world in reverse and reset everything, and do it twice. That type of thing. I mean, I don't know. To me, it was really weird to have earthquakes and electrical storms. It's like, I guess he listened to Tom Hardy in Inception. You need to dream bigger, darling. That type of thing. But I don't know.
This is it. I mean, like you've got your guy here, and he can do anything with his mind. Like he could disappear himself to a tropical island for 3 weeks with anything that he could possibly want to back in command. And what does he use the power for? To make the clock be quiet and to make everyone disappear, so he can still do his 9 to 5, but a bit quicker
with no sound, which was very disquieting.
Yeah. Just very odd. Like, I don't know any one of us here who wouldn't get that power and immediately have unlimited tacos. Just straight away. Just.
All right.
That's
tacos but this leads to kind of the conclusion of this episode. He talks to himself in the mirror, and he decides he's going to make everyone be him, or not be him, but be like carbon copies of him. And that's not going to go well. And as we've insinuated earlier, or said earlier, almost kind of ruined the episode for me. I know they have limitations on TV back in the 50s and 60s, but if you're going to do this, you might want to do a better mask, because he wishes for everyone to look like himself. He has a couple scenes where it's him, like, in different areas, and one as he's dressed like a woman and stuff like that. But how do you guys feel about the mask? This isn't the episode of the mask. This is just the mask. What do you guys feel?
So I awoke in a cold sweat at 3 o'clock in the morning to find a figure stood at the end of my bed wearing an Archibald mask, just staring silently at me. I tried to scream, but I couldn't, because I was wearing an Archibald mask.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was fairly terrifying. It is definitely Uncanny Valley territory, but like really poor quality Uncanny Valley territory. It didn't look convincing for a second, but it created a new form of nightmare fuel that has yet to be fully realized and sort of labeled. Also, Lady Archibald gave me strange, mysterious sexual urges. So
you got tingles. It's okay.
I say, well, nobody's perfect.
Yeah, had this been made today, you definitely would have had like a whole merchandise effort for Archibald masks.
Yeah. It'd have been like a Halloween film. It'd been like that new Winnie the Pooh thing, but it'd just be Archibald, blood and time wasting.
I mean, I don't know.
Maybe it wasn't a total time waste.
But but yeah, I mean, I don't know. The mask, you like I said, the limitations. They don't work on expensive budget. Like if this were a movie, you definitely tell they probably would have spent more on plaster than just grabbing Michael Myers mask or some shit out of the Halloween store or something like that. But
I guess I wasn't too put off by it. I appreciated the
Mhm.
fact that they went for it.
Yeah,
And the episode was meant to be goofy, and maybe that reinforces that it was in his head.
yeah, maybe.
I have a confession. I didn't even notice.
No, really.
I just now pulled it back up and looked at it and went, "Oh wow!" When he gets in the elevator, I didn't.
See-
I wasn't. I was paying it. I was watching it, but apparently I was fixated on the woman and the players. I didn't even notice the masks.
See, you need the mind. You need the mind of the guy from Ant-Man, the one with the guy from The Good Place, to think what he's thinking. Maybe the thing was, you're like, oh, they could be like me, but they just look like they're in masks or something. It looked like something out of a fucking troll. Those masks look like troll masks.
Oh, once you see him, you can't unsee him. They're
No, definitely.
they're there.
But he officially brings back everyone, and of course he gets 18 cups of coffee spilled on him by Henry again. And he's like, yeah, whatever. Just sits down at his desk and continues to be grumpy with the world. And maybe one day he'll only get rid of 3 people, because that lunchroom with the TV dinners was quite something. You maybe need to take
those
that down a
TV
little
dinners.
bit. I know, right?
Did you actually look at them up close? They're the most unappetizing things I've ever seen in my life. It just looked like nondescript slabs sat in a metal tray. Like it wasn't even like food.
That's a 50s TV dinner, though. That's the
Brown
problem.
and
That's a 62.
Yeah.
Sadly, what they
They're
look like.
long.
They're better now than they were then. What does that even say?
Be quiet and eat your Oasis TV dinner.
Oh God. With
It's
asbestos
taste.
filters.
A smooth taste.
Mm.
They go
I
down
don't
easy.
mind the taste.
It makes my tummy tickle.
Right.
I ate a lava lamp. It wasn't really lava.
No, the best part is he asked, "Did you get anything out of the book?" He's like, "Not really." I'm like, "Yes, you did. Shut the fuck up. You can make this guy disappear with the thought of, you could bring in the world's hottest stripper. Apparently you like women with mustaches or something like that. What are you talking about?" That's how the episode ends.
Lots of growth.
Lots of growth for a man that's still miserable after he finishes.
I mean, there was a
Literally.
lesson there to learn, but I
Story of
don't
my
feel like
life.
he learned it.
No, I think we learned it. I don't think he did.
Yeah,
I think
don't think he learned shit.
I think we were better off with the mask. Learning about the mask. That's an episode I can't
I
wait to
think
talk about.
all
the
he
mask.
learned was that he's annoyed no matter what.
Well, he annoys him. Sometimes, and this is a thing you hear oftentimes. The some of the biggest pet peeves you might have about other people are things that are truthful about yourself, and subconsciously you're rebelling against those things. I think that's kind of what this was. It was just as much him as it was anybody else.
Hey, he's a dick. And when he got a taste of that, he was like, I don't like this.
Is this how unpleasant I am to others? I should
No, I don't think that
disagree
ever dawned on
myself.
him. He just thought that guy's
No.
a dick. And that
It's like
guy's
a Christmas
mean.
Carol, basically, but just without the resolution.
Yeah.
Yeah. We stopped at the ghost of Christmas past. He never went to the present or the future.
We made one
Basically.
gigantic circle. We're back where we
Yeah.
started.
I know. Yeah. Poor Tiny Tim. He's dead. He don't give a shit.
He should have been quieter.
Exactly. So before we get into the closing narration, what did you guys think? Just in all honesty, what did you think of the episode? I think it was fine, but like I said, it's one of those you're not gonna remember. I mean, I don't know, maybe you guys won't remember it, but I won't remember it 2 episodes from now.
You know what? Honestly, I quite enjoyed it. I thought, as I've said, I'm quite a fan of the whimsical episodes. So this one was just, it wasn't quite as dumb as something like A Most Unusual Camera, but it was entertaining in just watching this fairly misanthropic character just be misanthropic and overly dry in an era where that wasn't really the done thing. I know that there was occasionally sort of the comedy grouch in 50s TV and early 60s TV, but that level of dryness in a character wasn't that pronounced at that time. It was something that had come on much more in the mid 60s. So it was nice to see that flair nice and early in the decade. I enjoyed the technicalities of the episode a bit more than the actual plot, to be honest. Like I said, the sound design was very impressive. The cinematography and the choice of how they showed people disappearing was neat. I like the fact that, I mean, it would have been really easy to just do a crossfade effect to have people fade away, but instead they chose to use sound to illustrate people vanishing. So you just hear the noise fade away and then fade back up as people kind of came and went, which is a nice touch. The only issue I really had with the episode, sort of fundamentally, really, was the idea that his use of the powers he had was so boring as an idea. Like I say, he's got complete and total god control of the universe. You know, he could be, you know, dancing the rumba in Rio by the end of the night if he really wanted to. I mean, he could have even, like, used his powers just to make his life a little bit nicer. He didn't have to be so binary about everything. But instead, he, you know, I mean, like, I don't know, like the ending I felt was kind of underwhelming. I figured like maybe if the ending had maybe a little nod and a wink to suggest he was going to still use his powers, but just kind of curb them a little bit so that, you know, he just got things he wanted. Like, I don't know, he wanted a particular sandwich one day and he could just be like, and it's there, or something like that. You know,
Yeah,
it's there,
just
you know?
don't order the turkey sandwich because it could be a little dry.
Yeah, you know, he gets onto the train again and it's hustling and bustling and he wants to have a seat and somebody's in the seat he wants, so he just goes, and they're gone and he can kind of just sit there, you know. Just
Greatest sound
really
effect ever.
Instead
gone.
of the snap, it's the We are the knights of
Night of
but yeah, I just felt that maybe if there was a bit more depth to that ending than just, oh, well, no lesson was learned. See you next week. I probably would have really fully got on with this. As it stands, I thought it was still pretty solid, and just a nice, whimsical, dry episode that was fun. So, yeah, I like this one.
I guess maybe I fall too much into the rut of the story. Like, the way his character was set up, I could see him kind of doing that all or nothing, like, okay, well, that didn't work, you know, screw it, you know, just, you know, all the stuff he did feels in line with the kind of character we're presented with. You know, he's very much like annoyed by everything. He probably got annoyed by these powers and then just kind of, you know, he's such in his rut in that routine of that time. He probably couldn't think outside of his box to be able to do more than what he did. So, yeah, he it would have been cool to see him do more, but given his character type, I'm not surprised that he didn't.
Yeah, I thought this episode was okay. I mean, it was a filler episode. It just didn't have to Dan's point, the end was just kind of, yeah, that happened. It didn't really have that I don't think any of us were surprised by how it ended. I mean, it's a morality tale and there was an ironic twist of fate, but unlike other episodes, you know what that ironic twist of fate is going to be long in advance. It just didn't do anything truly like eye-opening. It wasn't bad. It was enjoyable for the time I watched it, but also, like Nick said, probably won't in 2 weeks when we're talking about these, this will be one of the ones when we're looking at the list and I'll be like, which one is that? Because like it's just not a very memorable episode. There's nothing that really sticks out about it. And his character was just kind of, I don't mean like the show or the episode or the performance was boring. He was just a very bland, boring person. Like he didn't do anything, which I think that may have been part of what they were trying to say is like, even when he has all the power in the world and everything at his disposal, he's so non-creative that all he sees is, you know, what he does every day. He just wants to eliminate. He's not really going to grow. He's just going to eliminate obstacles that get in his way, which would be people. And yeah, it was fine. It was okay. I didn't love nor hate it. It's just kind of middle of the road.
And I have a random question, and I'm honestly trying to remember back because it's been forever. With Mr. Dingle the Strong, that's kind of what happened to him. Like, he had all this great power. He didn't really use it for that much. Like, it was just like, oh, hey, I've got this.
Things.
Right, he lifted things, but it wasn't really like, you know, oh, I've got this power. And he wasn't really like, you know, oh, look at me, I got this power. And then it just kind of goes away and he's like, okay, back to normality.
But it did have
aliens.
dildo head aliens in it when they showed up, which made up for everything. So
I mean, he did kind of try to capitalize on it because they did get the news crew in the very last few minutes to try and sort of, you know, but yeah, they didn't really advance much beyond come and watch me lift this big thing, you know.
Yeah, gigantic camera.
Yeah.
It's crazy because I think that's how big cameras were back in the day, weren't
Oh
they?
yeah,
Were they?
yeah.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was-
Like
They
they
were
were
huge.
massive. No wonder why you could hear every fucking thing. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you guys on most of it. Just I don't know. It has its moments. I think it has an interesting idea and concept behind it. I just in the end, it's just not the greatest of Twilight Zone episodes, which I don't want to take that away from Dan because I know you really like this episode. I think I just fly a different section of the Twilight Zone than when it comes to what I like and for instance what you like and what you two like and stuff like that. So it's interesting to for somebody to like this episode or Mr. Dingle the Strong or something like that, and then we'll get into like the Obsolete Man and maybe you like that lesser than this one or something like that. So it's always fascinating to hear the different sides of like what people like in a TV show because it's always going to be markedly different. So yeah, just not a huge fan of this episode. So with that
Right.
said, anyways, let's go ahead and hit up with the closing narration.
Mr. Archibald Beechcraft, the child of the 20th century, who has found out through trial and error, and mostly error, that with all its faults, it may well be this is the best of all possible worlds. People notwithstanding, it has much to offer. Tonight's case in point in the Twilight Zone.
Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff. And there you go. That's season 2. I just forgot the episode. Season 2, episode 27. 27. I did it, folks. 27.
Yay.
You did it.
Yeah, I did it. I did it. Yay.
You
Touchdown.
did it. You did it. Yeah. Through the
Yippee-yi-yo-ki,
water, up the
motherfucker.
mountain. We did it. We did it.
Packers win the Super Bowl.
I am so smart.
Go
I am
Packers.
so smart. SMRT. I mean SMART. So anyways.
Next week on Reading Rainbow.
Hey,
Nick
you know
drinks
what
the
I'm
third beer.
craving? You know
A
what
third
I'm
beer?
Yes, you know what I'm craving, guys? I'm craving the soft taste
Of Oasis.
of an Oasis cigarette.
Steak and
You know,
potatoes.
I'm waiting for you to put it. I'm waiting for you to put a cigarette in the ashtray in your area.
I should.
Yeah.
But
You just have a cig-
I can't right now because I've got this lovely chartreuse and orange scarf on that I
So you're
got
ready
at
to
a
catch it
great
on fire?
discount, and that I had this premonition that I needed to get this specific chartreuse and orange scarf.
I
It
know.
looks like when you take like a big table napkin and make a bib, like you can eat some lobster or something.
How did you know? Well, when I drink my large cup of I Love Uranus over here, I require a gigantic napkin like I'm eating a lobster.
Either that
Well-
or you look like P.T. Anderson.
I was going to say it's because after this podcast she's going to go cattle rustling, so
Yeehaw,
she's
motherfuckers.
have that disguise right in.
Get a cowboy hat.
But yeah, I mean
She's going over to the set
the
of
reason
Yellowstone.
I mean,
the
I have
reason you're wearing-
antlers. I don't have a cowboy hat.
There you go. The reason you're actually wearing that handkerchief there is something that you just decided to do on your own. It had nothing to do with the episode at all. We
Nope.
decided not to talk about it. It's just you just decided to wear it.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
It's not
definitely.
influenced by this episode at all.
No, not in any form or fashion. So
Nope. And of course, you can't see the color of my lovely chartreuse and orange scarf because we're all in black and white.
I know, right?
Damn it.
It's like I made a decision to make us black and white for reasons.
Damn it.
Am I being punked? Is this?
Oh, well, so it's a thing from the episode. So when
when
when the
He made
dude
a woman go and buy a scarf.
when the dude who spills coffee all over Archibald sits down next to him, he gives him the book, and he's like, my cousin swears by this book. He managed to make a woman he focused on this woman that was looking at a table of scarves, and he made her choose a chartreuse and orange scarf. So I decided to pull out a chartreuse and orange scarf.
I remember that now. No, for a second I thought that there was some sort of in joke against the British you guys were doing, and it was just going to be
I
like,
mean,
well,
it
see, you
is
hit
in
the
some
source.
form, I guess.
I mean, it could
Something
be
like
the
you were
Irish
gonna-
flag, I
used-
suppose, but I don't.
He
it's
said
not meant to be.
chartreuse is a color. We should have known something was up with him.
Like you were going to stop the recording, and Jacob
No
was
man
going to
does
go. He
that.
didn't say anything for the whole podcast. Trivia me $10, and I'd just be like,
Oh shit. All right. That's enough talk of the mind and the matter. Let's do the Twilight Zone ranking list. The greatest ranking Ranking. The greatest ranking list ever known
greatest
to man.
ranking ever listed.
Okay, so the last episode of Shadow Play, I'm pretty sure this is not as good as Shadow Play. Now that we have Dan here, this might be a little more complicated. Where are we gonna put this episode? Where do you guys want to put it?
Above
like
Perchance to Dream.
Jacob's like,
Above
yes.
You know
as
what?
in, like a lower number. I agree.
No, like where would you would you put this in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, now the 60s?
17.
Like how much work do you want me to do for this episode?
All of the
17.
work.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, as you guys talk about this, the reconfiguring of doing the ranking list for the video is much more complicated than it was before.
Yay!
I've had to shift pictures and stuff. It's crazy.
Oh, poor baby. My heart
I
bleeds
had to
for
do a
you.
notepad of it just to make sure I have the right configuration numbers.
You know what? Have you seen the work that goes into my videos?
Yeah, this is much more complicated, Trev. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
screw you.
I mean, he has
No,
a
I'm
point.
kidding.
That is quite a long list.
It is
Yeah.
a long list. So's your face.
My face is a list. Okay.
Face is a long list.
We've
That's
we've
right.
actually never seen you in real person, Dan. So we don't know. You may be a list. You may be an AI configured list that just
He's a
speaks
logo.
words.
I-
Have you not seen? He's a logo.
Yeah, a
I'm an
logo of list.
extension of Chat GPT, so
He's in the Dreamcatcher's warehouse.
I am British and I have no mouth yet I must scream.
But yeah, where would you guys want to put this? Is this better than is this a top 30 episode? Is it a bottom 30 episode? This is a very complicated episode because I don't know where to put it.
I mean, I'll just throw my 10 cents out there because I'm a crazy person who really enjoys this episode. So I would, if I was going to put it anywhere on your list, on my own ranking, I put this quite high. On here, I've kind of put it middle of the pack. So I'd probably put it, as Triv probably jokingly said, just above Perchance to Dream. I put it at number 17 personally, and I'd push Perchance to Dream down one.
See, I knew I
Sort
liked
of
you, Dan.
Up the middle.
I endorse this
Yeah.
action.
Not surprised.
I haven't even looked at the list.
Is this an
Um,
episode that's better than Nervous Man in a $4 room?
Yes,
Yeah.
for me at least.
Is
Yeah,
it better than something like the Prime Mover?
they're right about this, kind of like the same level for me.
Mm.
I think. Prime
Do you
Mover
think this is worse than Most Unusual Camera?
I like most unusual camera. It's goofy
Agreed.
as all get out, but I enjoyed that
Yeah.
episode.
It's one of my
yeah.
favorites.
I
yeah.
liked how it
Actually-
was a little bit of a departure, and while it wasn't like a morality tale or a twist of fate, I mean it was a twist of fate, but it was just kind of like haha funny. They threw each other out that window. I like that
Here's-
episode.
Here's actually where I would put it. I put it between Long Distance Call and Mirror Image in that vicinity.
I think
Where
that
is
would
it
work.
at? Long distance call.
Okay, 22.
22 to
26.
26.
See, I'd probably put it on
Um,
the lower end of that because World of Difference is still a really solid episode for me. Like one I like this episode. It's not one I would turn on offhandedly.
Which one was World of Difference again?
That was it? No. Was it the
the
one
Yeah,
where
I
the-
think it was the one with
was the
the
actor?
lady.
We always have
yeah,
this
the actor.
conversation about this damn episode.
Oh
yeah.
yeah, well I would personally definitely put it above Odyssey of Flight 33 because that one was very low on my own rankings.
Me
I found that
too.
one quite boring. So
That's what I was looking. I didn't care for that one either.
I'm
So
surprised we have
maybe-
After Hours so low. I really like that episode. I keep forgetting about that episode. Actually, I don't know. Maybe I don't like it as much.
I think that was more. I mean, with any of these, the reason that this list ends up the way that it does is because we have conversations, and that changes our input on how it rolls. So
Nice Place to Visit with Fats. Was it Fats? Was his name?
yeah, where he's in hell and doesn't
Oh
realize
yeah,
it.
yeah.
and that's very
Uh,
similar to this one. I mean, they both basically are a morality tale of what happens if you get what you want. Only this
Yeah.
one is what happens if a boring person gets what they want.
But does he really? Okay, here's a question: does he really know what he wants? Like he thinks he knows what he
Nobody
wants.
does. I think that's the whole morality. That's the tale. Or
Yeah, that's true.
What you learn, what you think you want, is not what you really want or need
is-
or whatever.
that is true.
I think I preferred A Nice Place to Visit slightly more just because it was very campy. I like the fact
Yeah.
that it was very over the top. They actually did more with the premise of you can do whatever you want. Whereas
Yeah.
this one was very much fixed on the idea of what the character wanted. So I don't know, maybe below Nice Place to Visit, but above Odyssey of Flight 33.
I'd be
I'd be
cool
good with that.
So 25.
So below nice, so number 25, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Below one, above the other.
I'm not
Nice.
really I'm not really in the state to fight about this episode because I don't like either way. It's like I'm not gonna remember it, but it's not like the worst episode I've ever seen.
Is this like
So
Ant-Man for you?
No, this is way better than Ant-Man. Quantum Mania. Yeah. At least this episode stuck with his premise and felt somewhat decently done, unlike Volume
MODOK wasn't in it.
Vomit.
But it lacked MODOK.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing, especially if it's MODOK from Quantum Mania. Yeah, we'll just say that's probably a good thing.
This MODOK would have been really boring.
And he probably been just a guy in a wheelchair with a big head. It'd probably been very weird.
Dude, that's Head of the Family, the Full Moon movie.
Oh god.
Is it?
Oh god.
Yeah. Oh, oof. It's a whole lot of oof right there, you know, Derry, don't you know?
Hey,
Oh yeah.
hey.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah, so that sounds good. So with that said, new number 25 is going to be The Mind in the Matter. Number 1 is still what was the episode again? Eye of the Beholder. Sorry, Eye of the Beholder. Number 63 is Trouble with Templeton. So there you go. With that said, the next episode is going to be season 2, episode 28. Triv has been waiting to talk about this episode since we first started this podcast. I know she has because she's been telling me every second of every minute of every day of my life.
Hey, Dick. Hey.
I literally
hey,
can show you like
hey,
6,000
hey,
paragraphs. It's just like she does the Jack Torrance from The Shining. They're just like nonsense with the but no, it's season 2, episode 28, which is called Will the Real Martian Please Stand Up? Directed by Montgomery Pittman, written by Rod Serling. This episode has a bunch of pretty decent actors in it. John Hoyt, Gene Willis, Jack Elam, and Barney Phillips. Of course, Barney Phillips has been in a couple episodes already. So we'll look forward to that.
Is this Triv's Invaders or the Howling Man? Or Monsters are doing
It's probably as close as I get, like, because it does have a lot of those. It has the kind of campy weirdness that I love. It also has some there's some social messaging. There's a lot in this, and it's one of the first episodes I really remember really loving. So it goes way back for me as one of the episodes that really got me into Twilight Zone.
I don't remember it, but I know the name very well. So I bet when I first start watching, I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I remember this."
Yeah, it's it has a good payoff too, which is kind of nice. So
and some fantastic special effects, I tell you.
Exactly. But we'll look forward to that, and then we have one more episode in season 2 after that, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, there you go. That's season 2, episode 27, The Mind in the Matter. Dan, you're the bestest around. No one ever can keep you down. You know, do the what is it, the crane kick, that type of thing.
You're simply the best.
Around.
Oh, I'm so glad I paid you guys to say that about me.
I know. The check's in the mail. Should get to you probably 6 weeks from now.
Wax off.
Okay, say, are you lucky, punk?
Are you lucky, punk?
Or do you
That's
feel
the
lucky?
question you got to ask yourself. Do you feel lucky?
Question.
Do you feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
You gotta ask yourself one question.
Just so flat. It's just so flat.
That's why we have you on, Dan, for the flatness. So there you go. Triv's no longer flat. She's 2D. You're just flat. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, Dan, thank you so much for coming on to talk this episode. I really appreciate it. You have content. With that you do that's very, very good. Sometimes you do a live stream with Triv, which is always very, very fun and funny. Where can they find all that content at?
Oh, well, thank you very much again for having me on. It's always an absolute pleasure to hang with such gents and gentesses as yourselves. You can find you can find me over on YouTube at TYTD Reviews. I'm also on Twitter under the same name, at least for now. And yeah, feel free to come and hang out, leave some comments. I'm always there to chat about all things cult, film, and cinema. I don't know exactly when this episode is coming out, but me and Triv have got a big series coming up in March that we're tentatively dubbing Parcel Bomb Month, where we're going to be reviewing some stinkers, and Triv has been very mean to me, unfortunately.
Sounds about right.
But yeah, so yeah, again, thank you so much for having me on. I'm always happy to chat with you guys.
Oh yeah, definitely. So Triv, you and your ascot and your cup of Uranus are always a good time to talk about and talk with. where can we find the rest of your content to talk about and talk with you too about?
You can find the
Those are words I
content that I
promise.
talk about, that sometimes we talk about and sometimes you can talk to me about on here on YouTube. I am Trivial Theater. Kind of a random selection of things coming up. I've got a collab with Dan coming up both on my channel and then also on his channel, so definitely check that out. You can also find future work coming up as well at some point in the near future, although dates are yet to be determined. You can also see me on Instagram and Twitter at Trivial Theater.
Excellent. Jacob,
Yes.
you're a guy that has a floating eyeball in the background that also
is.
does videos, that is
Mhm.
dealing with, a birth of a new kid.
It is.
I know you still do videos, so where can
do.
you find the videos? And
The easy answer.
The tubes of
God.
you.
It never gets old.
You find me on YouTube. I feel like I just did this last night. You can find me on YouTube.
That's
at
what she
Jacob
said.
Andrews Reviews. Oh yeah, Jacob Andrews Reviews, where I do movie reviews every now and then, and I have some other stuff coming soon, which I've been saying every week. Eventually, that
Yep.
stuff will come. It will come.
No, it's already here. You just haven't seen it yet. It's
Mhm.
here. It's ready to go. You just haven't seen it.
Part of it is. But yeah, check that out. I still do some movie reviews and stuff, at least one or two a week, except for this past week I was a little busy with something. Yeah, Twitter at Red Neville 2. Is that my name? Yeah, at Red Neville 2 on the Twitters. I comment on things.
There you go.
It's
Nice.
boring.
And
Oh, you can check me out on eBay.
Yes,
Where
yes.
I sell,
He
I
rebuilds
sell
products. Right?
refurbished video game stuff. Retro Jake
Yeah.
XY.
Definitely. I'll
Buy
make sure I
stuff.
put that in the description. Buy Jake's shit. He rebuilds it for your pleasure.
Buy my stuff.
Yay.
I clean it with
Yeah.
toothbrushes.
And
Now,
don't
can
give
we
him broken
find-
shit.
Can we find Jacob's pleasure machines at the Pleasure Emporium is the bigger
Pleasure
question.
machines. I like that.
I know.
Jacob's
I'm writing a
Pleasure
book called
Machines.
the Pleasure and the Matter.
Well, if you need a
You-
voiceover person, I'm your woman.
Yeah, you stick your hands in the gelatin things and you steer with the matter.
Oh, good lord.
Just to let you know, I am at Movie Emporium. These two crazy people helped me out with a spoiler discussion for Ant-Man Quantumania. It was fun. We had Rob from Robert Dodger come on for that as well, so definitely check that out. It's been a couple days since it's been released, but yeah, you can find there. You can find podcasts on all YouTube podcast services, Apple, all that good stuff, anuses, whatever you need. It's in the Pleasure Emporium.
Apple
I'm sure.
Podcasts and anuses.
Yes,
Because
anus
anal.
is
Is it
called
all
Google
one
Play.
word?
Yes, anus, Apple Podcasts and anuses. That's my Pleasure Emporium name.
Apple's podcasts
branching
and
out.
anuses.
All right. But you can find that there. You can find it at Movie Emporium where I have all my content. Find like I said, these are on all audio feeds. So without further ado, that's gonna do it. And for myself, Dan, Triv, and Jacob, we'll see you guys next time in the Twilight Zone. Peace out, motherfucker.
Truth you can't handle.
If you want me to, for your own amusement, if you want me to say Americanisms in an English accent, I am more than happy to. So,
All right, I want to hear that you talking to me. Are you talking to me? The thing from
are
Taxi
you
Driver.
talking to me? Are you talking to me? I don't see anyone else around here, so you must be talking to me.
Giving me the perfect end clip. I appreciate it.